Okay, so let's talk about triads and inversions. So first of all, we know that triads are just patterns of half steps and whole steps. So we're going to start with a major triad. We'll do just a simple C major triad, start on the root, and then we go up 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps, and then we go up 1, 2, 3 half steps, and that gives us our C major triad. Now if we take this triad, and we're just going to duplicate it, put it over here, and then we're going to take our bottom note, and we're just going to move it. Actually, I'm going to do that first. I'm going to move it up an octave. So we're at C3 now, and now we're at C4. Turn it back on. You'll see this is where we used to be. This is where we are now, right? Same note. And now we get a triad in inversion, also known as an inverted triad. Now we call this particular one a first inversion triad because we took the bottom note up 1 octave, so we've inverted it once. If we copy this though, and then do the same thing again, we'll take the bottom note, so now the E is the bottom note, still not the root by the way, C is still the root. Right, everything is still built off of C. All these intervals are still, it's the same exact pitches we had as our C major triad. But our lowest note, sometimes called the bass note, is now E for our first inversion triad. And so now we're going to do another inversion where we take our E, move it up an octave, turn it back on, and then now we get a second inversion C major triad. All right, and then watch this little bit of magic. It's not really that magical, don't get excited. Copy this one more time, and then we're going to invert this again. Take up the G, so the G is now our bottom note or our bass note, but still not the root. Bring it up an octave, turn it back on, and look at what we are left with. C, E, G. It's the same exact thing as where we started. And so with triads, you can only invert them twice, because if you try to invert them a third time, you end up right back where you started with the same exact pitches in the same exact relationship. So to review, here's our root position triad, where we've got root, third, and fifth. If we go into first inversion, we take that root and move it up an octave. And so that leaves us with our third in the bass. If we do that again, invert it again, where we take the bottom note, which at this point is the third, and move it up an octave, we now have second inversion. And so with second inversion, we're left with the fifth in the bass. And if you were to do that one more time and invert this G up here, you're back to root position triad, where the root is in the bass, which means the root is the lowest note. Okay, and so here's what we can do with inversions. So here's a basic chord progression using all root position triads. And then we've got a bass part. We've got a bass line that's just playing the roots of each of the chords. Right, so we've got a C major chord here, bass is playing a C. Got an F major chord here, bass is playing an F, and so on. And so here's what that sounds like. Right, and it's fine, there's no problem with this. But once we start moving into the world of inversions, we can start taking that same chord progression and changing it up. So while the notes stay the exact same, we can get different kind of melodies that happen from the chords. So think about it this way. Our ears are going to hear whatever the top note is of the chord as almost its own little melody. So like here, we're going to hear this G moving down to the C as a little melody in this chord progression. Take a listen. Bum, bum. Right, you can kind of hear that happening. Well, if we invert the chord so that we've got different notes on the bottom and different notes on the top in particular, we get a different melody coming out of the chords as well. Right, so already you can hear the difference between C, A, bum bum, compared to G, C. And the other thing that this thing allows us to do is notice that this kind of melody here is going up here in the last 3 chords, but in the bass, since it's following the roots, it's going down. And so what we get is what's called contrary motion, where different voices are moving in opposite directions. And that's a really good thing to help our ears separate between the two parts, so that we can hear the bass as distinct from the chords. And here's another set of inversions. Right, so this allows us to keep one note the same all the way through these first 4 chords. Now again, these are the same chords, so exact same notes. We've just changed which notes are on the top, so that in this case, we end up with, turns out there's a C in common across all 4 chords here. And then we have it move up at the end to a D, which again gives us that contrary motion with the bass. Right, you can kind of see on the last 3 chords here where the bass goes down, but the chords go up. So just think of inversions as being a way to have more options with your chords. So if you understand triads and you know how to make a basic major and minor triad, then inversions now just allow you to not be stuck in this very kind of parallel movement sort of thing, where all the notes are always moving in the same direction. You know, everybody moves down, everybody moves up, everybody moves down, everybody moves down. Right, but with inversions, we can have things moving kind of differently, where, for example, here, these 2 notes stay the same, but these guys change, they move up. So hopefully that gives you a little idea. One more time, here's all 3 of those options. And by the way, these are not the only possible options. You know, we could have done 100 different inversions between all these different chords. Right, just some different options. So have some fun with it. Good luck.